start with the quarterbacks, and let's start on the Miami defensive side in defending Felipe Franks. I don't think this kid quite gets the credit that he deserves based on the development and improvement that he showed me last year and should have showed everybody else. He was a 9-touchdown, 8-interception guy the season before. Dan Mullen's known for his development of quarterbacks. This kid has an NFL skill set. If you look at body type, size, athleticism, and arm strength, arm effectiveness, accuracy, giftedness, throwing the ball versus just sheer arm strength aren't necessarily a match, but he's still working on that. Needs to improve the completion percentage. But your thoughts about Felipe Franks and a Miami front that's still going to be really good, but those two monsters you had in Jackson and Willis, of course, are gone.
Yeah, but Miami is really reloading up front. And I think that that's going to be a key in this game. But looking exactly for or at the quarterback position, yeah, Felipe Franks does have a lot of things that are positive. You know what I mean? I mean, he's 6'6", 240 pounds. He's not like a Cam Newton behemoth at that size, but I mean, he still is, you know, he's tall. He has a strong arm, completed just under or 58% of his passes or right at that mark last year, 189 yards a game. So he's not, you know, really an explosive passer, didn't showcase that last year. But then again, you know, players develop over the course of time. So he's a fourth-year junior now in his second year with Dan Mullen, who has coached other good quarterbacks before. So, you know, he does have some things that will present problems. Obviously, he does have a strong arm. Ask Tennessee about that with that Hail Mary that he completed against them at the end of that game. So cool, Darnell Green. I see your score prediction. I don't agree, but whatever. So yeah, Felipe Franks does have a strong arm. He likes throwing slants a lot. I saw a lot of people who were watching film from last year. So, you know, he isn't necessarily the most accurate passer, like in intermediate range passing. And we've seen that from Miami also, because, I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about Miami's quarterbacks. And you know more than anybody, Mark, I've been on here talking about the lack of ability throwing the ball that MarkRogersTV had over the course of time. So I'm not one who's just on here bagging on somebody else's quarterback. I was that complimentary of Miami's former quarterback here. So I understand how that works. The other thing that really is going to be a factor, and it has been a factor for a lot of teams, and also with the Manny Diaz defense, or in the past. And I know Manny Diaz isn't calling the defense per se, but it's the same defense that he built and designed, is a running quarterback. And Felipe Franks had the third most carries on Florida's roster last year. And he has that big, gigantic size, again, at 6'6", 240, where, you know, you can run some single wing, you can run read option, you can run, you know, just design quarterback draws and run plays. And he's going to be a factor in that kind of a way. And, you know, you saw that in the ACC championship game in 2017 with Kelly Bryant. And I wrote about that, and I came on here and spoke about that. And people didn't say or didn't think that they were going to lean on quarterback run as much as they did, Clemson that being, and they did. If you look back at the game that got Al Golden fired, I know that was a different defense, but still, they had not run the quarterback, Clemson that was in 2015. They'd not run the quarterback a lot, and I said, yo, look out for them running the quarterback, because it's a thing that we have not accounted for. And then, obviously, you saw 58-0, and quarterbacks, even the backup or third-string quarterback, ran for an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. So, yeah. So Franks does present a dual threat option for Florida's offense, which can be taxing to Miami's defense. He does have a variety of receivers to throw to. You know, they have big receivers with Van Jefferson, Tyree Cleveland, Trayvon Grimes, he's not from down here, but he transferred here. His family moved down, and he went to St. Thomas Aquinas for a few years and graduated from there. So they have some bigger guys. And then they got fast guys. Josh Hammond, who's from down here. Both him and his brother went to Florida. Kadarius Toney is a slash player who can be running back, slot, outside receiver, kick return, punt return. And, you know, maybe they throw the ball to the running backs a little bit. But, yeah, you know, Franks can struggle if you get pressure. And I mean, that's any quarterback. So if you let him stick around in a clean pocket, then you're playing with fire. Because if you give a player with his physical ability the chance to read the field and really take his time in making a decision, then he can hurt you. So, yeah, Miami will be tasked with playing good coverage with only, you know, I know that there's only 5 cornerbacks on the roster, but there's 12 defensive backs because there's 5 safeties and 2 strikers who are really I mean, striker's a hybrid defensive position. Our guy Matt Washington compared the strikers versus the star position for Florida, which is a similar kind of hybrid position. So I know there's only 5 corners, but there's 12 DBs, and you can play coverage underneath with different combinations and things like that. Yet and still, you have to play solid defense all the way around. There could be no blown assignments. And then the defensive line and front seven is going to have to get pressure up the field. So in talking about Felipe Franks, yeah, there is development that needs to be seen from his prior performance last year. Obviously, coming out of camp, everybody's in the best shape of their career. Everybody's the smartest. They know the playbook better than they ever have. And that's on both sides of the ball and both teams. But you really need to see that. So, yeah, there are things to like about Felipe Franks. He was a turnover machine the year before last year, like you said. He still had a penchant to give the ball away in some key games last year against Missouri, against Georgia. And who else did they lose to last year? They lost to Kentucky as well. Gave the ball away in that game. All 3 losses. So he's not a perfect player, but he is a talented player. He's a big physical player with the ability to run in a strong arm. So there is a challenge to be presented to the Miami defense. But I think that hopefully Miami schemed up some ways to affect him.
Kentucky and Georgia last year, elite defenses. Georgia, not necessarily statistically, but in regards to talent, one of the top 5 most talented defenses in the nation. Kentucky just had a lights out, great defense last year. Not going to this year, most likely. Missouri, I don't know what happened there, but they got blown out by Missouri. A decent team, but a team that finished 8-5 on the season. When I look at the wide receiver core, this is where I think that maybe Florida can make some hay. I don't consider it an elite group. I'm looking at the Athlon's rankings. They believe that this is the 7th best receiving core in the nation, including the tight end position. The guys that you mentioned, Jefferson Grimes, Kadarius Toney, is kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy. They're really good. They're not elite. These are not elite receivers, Clemson, Alabama, and a few other groups across the country, but they're extremely deep and talented. And because of the Miami issues with the lack of corners, can those safeties step in and cover these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that Miami will have a scheme for it. I think that Miami has the talent for it. I don't think that everybody's going to be man-to-man in a bad matchup situation. You know what I mean? You're not going to put Amari Carter on Kadarius Toney and just say, okay, man free, cover 0, everybody blitz. Hopefully you don't get dusted. I don't think that that's going to be smart. So I don't think that they're going to do that. But yeah, I do think that Miami, obviously retooling the secondary, but there's talent there. Al Blaze Jr. looks like he's going to be the starter at the corner opposite Trajan Bandy. You have in the depth chart was just announced, and then Manny Diaz is actually giving a presser right now. I didn't know that was scheduled for this time when we scheduled this, but hey, whatever. But anyway, yeah, so you have Gervin Hall and Amari Carter, your starting safeties. Al Blaze Jr. and Trajan Bandy, your starting corners. DJ Ivey is still going to play in that rotation. Corey Couch is going to play in that rotation. Bubba Bolden should play in that rotation as well. So there are talented guys enough there. And again, you cannot have blown coverages. If Robert Knowles is on the field, then I hope that there are no blown coverages, because we've seen that from him before. So that is a concern to me. As a 5th-year senior, hopefully he, I talked about Franks developing from where he was in a negative performance kind of a way. I hope that if he sees the field, Robert Knowles also has that kind of development forward, where he's making tackles, where he's in the scheme, where he's not reading things wrong, and the communication between he and the other defensive backs is to the level that lets him do his job function. Because previously we'd seen that there had been communication breakdowns and things of that nature. So obviously I hope that does not happen. But again, putting him or somebody whose coverage skills are not the strongest on, just one-on-one with no help against a wide receiver is probably not the smartest idea. Circling back to what you said earlier, though, about Florida's receiving group being 7th overall, according to Athlon, including the tight ends. The tight ends have done nothing. I mean, there's a little bit of talent there, but Brevin Jordan by himself in his freshman All-American season usurped or doubled the statistics of the whole entire tight end position combined. So, there is a little bit of talent there. It's not much, honestly. I mean, Kamori Gamble, fine. Keon Zipper, he's decent, but he's a true freshman. But yeah, I'm taking both, if not three, Miami tight ends before I'm taking any Florida tight ends. And yeah, I think that the safeties and linebackers for Miami should be able to handle those guys. But again, it's not just a one-on-one situation. It's in the scheme of the defense and what they're trying to accomplish and all kinds of things like that. So we will see how those things go. But yeah, I mean, the one player who really frightens me is Kadarius Toney, because speed. And he has speed and he has wiggle. And it's one thing just to have, elite straight line speed and you can't wiggle or anything. That was Philip Dorsett when he was here. And I remember he and I got into a Twitter tete-a-tete because I asked that he not be put back to return punts because he had no wiggle. Kadarius Toney has speed and wiggle. And that's something that can affect a defense. Obviously, Miami has players with speed and wiggle as well. I'm not saying that we don't. I'm just saying, looking at Florida's offense, that's the one who, if he gets in space on a linebacker or a safety and he puts a quick shake on and everything, that's one where I could see it being an issue. So that's where I personally am looking. And obviously, all the people in the secondary need to cover in the back seven. So if you want to take the safety, strikers, linebackers, and corners, all those guys have to cover. So yeah, there's positives and negatives. There's things that Florida's going to offer on offense that will stress Miami's defense, but the talent is there. I'm not sure if the production is going to be there or is there yet, because a lot of these guys are in new roles. Amari Carter's never started before. Gervin Hall's never started before. DJ Ivy Al-Blades never started or played heavy rotation snaps on defense before. So you're asking a lot from those guys. And yeah, I mean, you're just throwing them into the deep end of the ocean and hoping that they swim. So we'll see.
Speaking of Philip Dorsett, I caught on Twitter today, somebody posted him flying right down by the Gators secondary for a long touchdown pass in the 13 game.
Yeah, and again, when you saw that, there was no wiggle. It was just, I'm a 4, he was like a 10-3, 10-4, 100 guy, like state champion in high school at St. Thomas Aquinas. Look, I'm not going to wiggle. I'm just going to blow right past you. Is what he did. And yeah, Miami has some other talented guys who have that kind of ability as well.